So welcome to this episode of the HRD Talks podcast, where we talk with HR directors and people directors about their journey into HR, get their insights into current trends in the world of work, and take their advice on the future of HR and how HR professionals can deliver value and progress their careers. Today, I'm very, very excited to have Linda Sleath, who's Group HR Director at Tayto. Welcome, Linda.
Good to be here. Hello, finally.
Yes, well, I was going to say, we've been wanting to do this for a little while, so it's good to get going. Would you like to explain a little bit about who you are, what you do, and a bit about Tayto?
Yes, I'd love to. So I'm Linda Sleath. I'm the Group HR Director at Tayto Group. So that is a snack business. In fact, the UK's largest family-owned snack business, Snack and Crisps. So we make the iconic Tayto crisp, which is a real thing in Northern Ireland.
Absolutely.
There are two Taytos, as we know. There's a Southern Irish and Northern. Ours is the Northern one, as well as making Golden Wonder, real crisps, and lots of crisps for supermarkets, third party. But Tayto is our jewel in our crown.
Absolutely. Well, and I have to say, I'm particularly excited about this episode, having been born in Northern Ireland, all my family being there. And Tayto was a real big deal, cheese and onion in particular.
Oh, yes.
And so I'm just genuinely excited to be talking about that.
A taste of home.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because although some people in England, let's say, may not be familiar with the Tayto brand, Golden Wonder and Real Crisps, I think they will be. And certainly they should try Tayto if they haven't.
Oh, God, yeah.
Available on the website?
They are, yes. Yeah. Tayto.com.
There we go. Great. We got that out of the way. Yeah. Excellent. So tell us about your journey into HR. So you've been at some incredible places. So I was looking back at your CV on LinkedIn, and you've been at United Biscuits, Molson Coors, Boots, Tops Tiles, Benson's for Beds, and now Tayto.
Yes.
Like, that's a really impressive list. But have you always worked in HR? Did you start out doing that?
No. In fact, I always joke that I defected into HR, which actually 25 years ago. I started when I was 3, obviously. So prior to that, because after uni, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I was going to follow my dad into the army. But I have celiac disease, so you can't go into the army if you've got celiac disease, which, given some of the businesses I've worked in, is quite ironic. Biscuits and beer, lots of gluten-free ones now, but at the time. So, but I started off on a scheme at 3M.
Okay.
So 3M Healthcare, so pharmaceuticals. I was there for about a good 5 years, and in manufacturing and supply chain. And that was brilliant in terms of learning about process rigour. As you can imagine, it's quite stringent making pharmaceuticals and healthcare devices. It was great, but quite frankly, I was bored.
Okay.
It was a very linear business in terms of you have to do this first before you move on to somewhere else, but got involved in the people side of things quite a lot. Then I went to work for a chilled food organisation that made sandwich fillings, such as cream cheese, egg mayonnaise. But I worked in the plant that did hard-boiled eggs and egg mayonnaise.
Yep.
And I look back now and forget just how stinky it was. I mean, we used to go to the pub on a Friday. There's quite a young group of us that were managers, and we must have just stank the place out. But so I was a production manager there.
Okay.
But I got, again, very involved in the people side of things, because as a manager, you do that on a daily basis. And the head of HR there, who's still a dear friend to this day, said, "You'd be great in HR." And I went, "Well, probably do a better job." The arrogance of being a line manager.
Yep.
And I thought, actually, she's got a point, because I'm really fascinated by people, what makes them tick. Can't say I always like people, but I'm fascinated. And then thought, I'm going to go and work in HR. But it took me a while to get in, because I hadn't got my CIPD at that point. I'd had no experience, despite going, well, I do it on a daily basis. And I think what I've been really proud of in my career is I take an open mind to, okay, well, let's see what comes up. And so therefore, if a door opens, I'm like, I'll go and try and go through that.
Yep.
And I went for a job at McVitie's, a factory that used to be in Ashby that's no longer there. So United Biscuits, which is McVitie's, KP and Jacobs at the time. And the HR lead there was an ex-operational manager. So I ended up getting the job. So I spent a fantastic 10 years at UB, effectively learning my trade. I mean, I sucked up everything. So I'd say I'm a true generalist.
Yeah.
So 25 years ago, stepped through the HR door and never looked back.
Absolutely. And then obviously a few moves to some, really great brands since then. Highlights of that?
Highlights. I think working for some iconic brands, because I love it if, when people go, what do you do? Who do you work for? And you say, they're like, oh my God, I love that particular beer or I love that biscuit.
Yep.
I can wax lyrical about the whole Jaffa cake being a cake and not a biscuit. But I think my highlights are working for big brands with some fantastic people. So, we were just talking earlier about the podcast you did with Kim Knight, who was also at Boots International. So working in Boots International and working across different countries and learning about different contexts and getting to go to some fabulous places. I mean, that's been a real highlight. And even when at the time it feels like a low light, help navigating businesses through some terrible times. So my time at Tiles through the COVID pandemic.
Yes.
Looking back on that and going, we did right by our people.
Yeah.
That's been some real highlights.
Yeah. And COVID, we kind of forget in some ways happened.
Yeah.
When you say you did right by your people during that time, what kind of thing are you thinking? Was it a furlough situation, and presumably?
Yeah, a little bit of everything, because it was one of those things. I remember sort of at 5 o'clock every evening going, right, so Boris has just said that.
Yep.
WhatsApp's going crazy. Like, what's that mean?
Usually on a Friday.
Oh, yes. Yep. Yeah. And thanks a lot. Next slide, please.
Yep.
But working through, okay, so we were a retail business, but we also supported the construction to traders, etc. So we had to put a certain amount of people on furlough, but we took the decision to go, well, actually, we won't take them right down to the bare minimum. And as an exec team, we also took a cut as well in going, well, if it's impacting them, it's impacting us. And then working through on a case-by-case basis, making sure that actually people were supported, helping try and navigate the business through what this means. And unfortunately, we lost a couple of people.
Yeah.
And then doing right by their families and their friends. So, because ultimately, it really is unprecedented.
Yeah.
But it's finding that balance between, actually, we need to make sure we've got money coming in, because being a PLC business, our duties to the shareholders, but also making sure that we're looking after our colleagues. And for us, because everybody sat at home and went, I don't like my tiles anymore, we saw a massive boom as people went DIY crazy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Where you want your colleagues on board to be able to sell those,
yes.
Deal with that rush.
Yeah.
So,
and then I sometimes think, when I'm thinking about kind of the world of work at the minute and the trends that we're seeing and that kind of thing, that we must still be impacted by what happened during COVID. And the obvious one is work from home, hybrid stuff. Do you feel like that's impacting even now?
Yes. I mean, just reading some of the articles about draconian, everybody back to the office, I think you need to be pragmatic. We're having similar conversations around finding that balance between actually want people to come into the office, because the vast majority of our colleagues can't, because they're working in operations. We haven't quite worked out how to do crisps in bulk in people's homes.
Yep.
Maybe that's something for the future. But finding that balance in terms of, I think people work better, collaboration, teamwork, etc. But it is finding that balance. It's about what's right. But also as well, we get people that apply for jobs going, I only want to work at home. And, there are some roles that you can. But I think for people's mental health, you've got to find that balance. I like working from home when I need to, but I also need that social interaction. Yeah.
Because it feels to me that there is a kind of new expectation of flexibility, isn't there? Where, that time, that COVID kind of almost changed things forever. And that expectation does seem to be there. And, we even see it in things like occupational health, recommending working from home as a reasonable adjustment and that kind of thing. Often, I'm not entirely clear that that's the best idea, but there is this sense of a kind of an expectation or entitlement, even to a certain extent. And I think for employers, that's quite tricky at times.
It is. And I think, again, this is where our function can help navigate that case-by-case basis. And, the difference between working flexibly and agile and, okay, right, I'm going to work from home tomorrow versus a formal, flexible request and navigating the two. But I think what has been interesting is, I think about many leaders who are like, no, nobody works from home, can't trust them, they'll be doing the washing and, walking the dog. Actually, you can trust people. If anything, I think the boundaries for people to actually not taking breaks. I know when I work from home, sometimes I look at the clock and go, I've been sat here for hours.
Yeah.
So, it's a tough one to navigate, but I'm not in favour of a draconian. That's it. Everybody back to the office when you can find some middle ground.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then focusing in on Tayto.
Yes.
Tell us about what's going on there, exciting things, less exciting things, whatever it might be. How's HR, kind of, because it's essentially it's a family run business, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, should a bit of history.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, founded in 1956, which, and full disclosure, the reason when I had the phone call about the job, I got dead excited because having worked for United Biscuits, so KP, my family are from Northern Ireland, who went, oh my God, I know Tayto. When you turn up at either of the airports and you see Mr. Tayto stood there. So founded in 1956. There is a castle where we make our crisps in Northern Ireland. It is a proper castle. I've stayed there a couple of times. That's just so cool to say, where Mr. Tayto lives. So we're the third snack organisation in the UK. So there are others that you will know, but I'm not going to name them. I'm not going to name check them on this podcast. So we are very profitable. We're very successful. The challenge we've got though is most of our work is on the shop floor, and it's about achieving good quality crisps at volume. And that can be a challenge when you're trying to attract people, retain people, because it's not the most glamorous of roles. And our job in HR is to help navigate that. And, one of our challenges is around recruitment at the moment and retention. So part of that is making sure that we hire right first time. That's universal, but even more so be really clear on the outset that it's going to be hot in there. It's going to smell of oil. It's going to smell of flavourings. It's not particularly glamorous, but we make some fantastic products and we've got longevity. And when people join us, how do we help equip them to be able to do their job effectively as quickly as possible? Even more so now. So a lot of focus on our onboarding and induction, thinking about the change to the law. For people that join after the 1st of July, let's make sure we set them up for success. But a family-owned business, but it's become incredibly successful and large, and helping them understand the certain things we need to do from a rigor perspective, from a legal perspective, that doesn't really matter that much when you're a small organisation. So, and what I'd say for me is bringing HR out of the back and bring it to the front in terms of we're there to help find solutions. Well, and
again, having known you a little while, the impression I get is that you approach HR from a kind of, we stand alongside the operation side. I'm sure partly driven by your own operational kind of background, but it feels very much like we're not here to do the stuff that other people suggest HR do. We're here to actually help them achieve what they want to achieve.
Yes.
Which again, I think we'll probably talk about some of the criticism of the profession that's going on at the minute, but kind of explain how you approach it in that way.
Yeah, I think I really love working in HR. Not always, there's moments I'm like, what on earth? But I love the difference. I know I can make it as a person, but also as a function. So I approach it from the fact is that we're there shoulder to shoulder with the organisation, but also looking after our employees as well. Because, you very often hear, HR are only there for the business. Our job is to manage, find the solution, make it a great place to work, but also mitigate risk for both sides. And I think that symmetry is possible. So what I always try and do is understand the context that I'm working in. So, if you're a first line manager on the shop floor with fryers, ovens, packets of crisps all over the place, I need to make sure that the solutions that we give them to help them do their job are as simple as possible. And what might work for an office worker isn't going to be the same for somebody that's running a shift. And if you're a shop floor worker that hasn't got access to a laptop, how to make sure that they understand the policies that they need to do and make them really simple, because, we can overcomplicate things. But I definitely see us as we are there to create solutions, but shoulder to shoulder. And I always measure my successes when sometimes I've got a revolving door of people going, have you got a minute? I just want to talk this through with you. For me, that's brilliant. Let's talk it through first, rather than me going, okay, what have you done? I said I'd get this in, but to coin a phrase of one of my old team, clean up in R5, HR calling. So we're there to create solutions. And ultimately, the things that we can do basically take away the noise and allow people to focus on their job at the best of their ability.
And it's interesting to hear you talk about symmetry when you're describing the kind of looking after the business objectives and looking after the people. I've often described that as a tension that HR have to kind of manage, which it doesn't feel particularly positive. I like your way of describing it. How do you see that working in practice? Because it's a line that's tricky to walk a lot of the time, isn't it?
And you're right. A lot of the time it's tension, but you should always strive for that symmetry. I think very often it's like anything. It's kind of understanding what's really the root of the issue. Because invariably a lot of the things that end up being massive problems are the root is people not understanding where each other's coming from, or we've not been clear. It's understanding what is the root of it. Yeah. And then going, well, how do we find the best solution? And sometimes it is what it is, and this is how it's going to be. So, for example, a lot of the work we have to do sometimes is, separating from individuals. That's a terrible phrase, but how do you do that with respect and recognising there's an individual at the end of that conversation who has a mortgage to pay, has a family to look after, and always keeping that in mind. And to do that is making sure, A, we're doing it legally, but also making sure we're doing it with humanity. Yeah. Because I've seen some terrible instances in my career, and also people ring me for advice in my personal life, and I'm like, oh gosh, what's happened? Yeah. So I think that tension comes from lack of understanding. Yeah. And I suppose what I'd say to that is it's really important in HR we understand, we have the technical expertise to be able to spot when something's going to become an issue, sniff it out, should I say? Yeah. But be there in the first instance. So actually, you find a solution so that doesn't happen. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I think that in recent years, there's also been a real focus on sort of HR being more commercial, in inverted commas. And again, some of the best HR people that I work with tend to have come from a commercial background, an operational background, that kind of thing, and therefore are wired in a way, it seems to me, where they understand that a business is there to achieve something, particularly in the kind of private sector commercial world. But can you get that experience another way? Can you train that into an HR professional to make them better at that? Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I think that goes back to understanding context. So we make snacks and crisps. So there's only a certain amount of margin you can get from that. So we need to think about if we're doing things, actually, what value that's going to help to create as our ability to make that margin. I think also as well, cutting your cloth accordingly. So, I've come from some way bigger organisations. If I were to take my playbook of, we're going to do it this way, they don't need that. Yeah. So being pragmatic, but also I'm a great believer in speak with data. Mm-hmm. So, okay, for example, our focus is on retention. You can measure retention. You can measure the hidden cost of that. Yep. Right. So now we need to focus on that, and let's drop that down. And that's data, insight and action. Yep. But ultimately, and I probably learnt this from my Molson Coors day, is I expect my team, if they're sat with their friends and family or down the pub and they go, what do you do? Focus on the business first and go, actually, I work for a business and we make snacks. So you can talk about the snacks that we make, our customers and what our customer dynamic is, but also, and by the way, a potato comes at this end and pops out the other. So we expected people at Molson Coors to be able to explain that really simple. It's called pub talk. So if you can do that, you understand the business. Yeah. But you can teach it. And I take a lot of time going, okay, what's the return on investment on that? You can measure pretty much anything. Even when you go, well, legally, we've got to do that. We can still do that in a pragmatic way, in a commercial way. Because ultimately, somebody once said, if they walk into a room, they wouldn't be able to pick out who's HR because everybody's having that we lead with commercial first. So. Yes. Yeah, I like that. And I guess I was chatting with a people director recently, and his view was we shouldn't really even be having this conversation because it should just be taken for granted that that's a thing. But clearly there's still a school of thought that HR people are not commercial enough. Yeah. What is that your experience too? Or yeah. And I think landing in a new business, I've there probably has been a couple of assumptions sometimes that, they're numbers. You don't get those numbers.
Yeah.
And I take great pride then in going, I really do know my numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, I would said to an old CEO of mine, I go, I like to feel the numbers though. I might go about the numbers a different way.
Yep.
And he was an ex-CFO, was rolled his eyes.
Yep.
But you can tell a story with numbers. But there is that element of going, yes, I do understand that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think we do have to try then twice as hard. Because I think what's interesting, you wouldn't go to a finance person and go, you don't understand people, do you? By the way, that's not necessarily the case for all finance people.
Yeah.
Backtrack.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean though. Okay. And I guess that probably then comes down to this perception that there is at the minute around the HR profession, and particularly some press coverage that has been quite unpleasant actually towards the HR community. There was a recent one where a CEO in America had come out and said, I've fired my entire HR team.
Yeah.
You read the detail, you find out how he'd actually just slimmed them down and made them more operational focused in reality. But there seems to be certain quarters, or areas of the press who are beating a drum that is very anti-HR. Where do you think that's coming from, and how best do people respond to that?
I think some of it is just broadly is driven by, it used to be personnel and welfare. And I think the element of just staying behind the scenes all about policy, and you can't do that, and saying no, because we all know that very often leaders don't like to be told no.
Yeah.
Sometimes you could do that, but you might want to think about doing it slightly differently. So I think we've created some of that ourselves. That particular example, I think some of that is born out of the broader political sphere around HR seem to be driving lots of ED&I schemes, etc.
Yep.
It's quite scary though to see the vehement sort of distaste sometimes, I'd say, is of HR. I think something it's driven by a lot of the times we don't simplify. We do get in the way. We do get in the way. And then with businesses that have that ability to spin them all off and change them, they can do that. So I think, we have to look at solutions. We have to be solutions driven. I think I've always tried to be. Yeah. What are you trying to do? Let's look at how we can do that. Because me saying no should be the last port of call. Because don't get me wrong, I will absolutely say you're not doing that. I can do that at my stage of the career, but try and find solutions. I think when you've got functions that don't do that or aren't allowed to, because they actually might not even report into the business, they might not have a seat at the top table. Yeah. It makes it very difficult to do that.
Yeah.
But that particular example, I did read that and go, you've just changed the structure of it. And actually that'll probably work really well. Yeah. And I know that we've read some of the similar articles by a particular journalist. Yeah. Twitching just even thinking about it. They're not helpful though, because they're generalised.
Yeah.
It is those, I sort of see it on social media posts or HR, the fun police. They don't care. Yeah. Actually, we do. We care a lot. Yeah. We care a lot. Or managers going, HR told me I had to do it that way. Yeah.
But at the same time, you must have plenty of examples where other professionals that operate within the business are like, we actually value HR.
Yes.
I've certainly seen, seen that in my working experience where you see a CEO who is sat next to his people director or her people director and is like, I am absolutely having this person in the room for any of this really complex stuff because they are the expert in this area and they will guide me through this and help it go much better than it would otherwise.
Yeah.
And that, so that is regularly happening. Although I do appreciate what you say that, and I've kind of made this point, with any profession, there are some good professionals and some less good professionals. Yeah. And therefore, there's always room for improvement. But there's plenty of examples of this going well and organisations succeeding as a result of the people side of the business, contributing.
Exactly. Because, I've been really blessed. I mean, I had a CEO that said, just give him really good counsel. And, if I was worried, he should also be worried. My current CEO he involves me, speaks to me, what do you think about this? I think it's just really, really important because, again, we can help find solutions. But you can only do that once you've built relationships is really important. You know, building that trust really early. And I've made a real point of doing that in my current business, because that helps the broader team to provide them with the confidence that, you know, we can do this. We're going to get involved earlier, rather than, right, if I'd known about that 2 weeks ago, I could have helped you. But also, it isn't just about cleaning up the dirty stuff. It's going, by the way, this is what's going on externally with our competitors. We might want to think about doing X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
You know, innovation around systems, AI, you know, total rewards, all those things. We should be bringing that to the fore, but we need to take time for ourselves to do the outside in. Because I find it sometimes you get so involved internally, you forget to do the horizon scanning.
Yes.
And that gives you that credibility with your CEO.
And that again, I know we've spoken previously about how you feel like you've benefited from your network, so that external view. But how has that kind of been a positive for you? And have you kind of sought that deliberately, or has it kind of just happened?
It kind of happened. I think I'm just a natural person to do that anyway, because you know, I think back to my time when I was in operations, but also in HR, I talk to people.
Yep.
You know, the CIPD do call it curious, or I just see it as being nosy, kind of going, oh, hello, what are you doing? And I think it's interesting. So I started off, again, in pharmaceutical, very, very structured and linear. And I haven't necessarily got an engineering brain. I mean, I've got a bit of a brain all over the place, but I'm fascinated by how things work, but fascinated by how people work. And just by that, I've just ended up just building an organic network, and I love introducing people to other people as well. Yeah. So, for example, when I was at United Biscuits, I was stepped out of my comfort zone and was part of a project to put in SAP HR and do a whole shared service implementation. And I remember, I think the post office at the time had recently put SAP HR. I just basically sent one of them a message going, hello, can we come and have a look? And they were brilliant. Came to one of our meetings, etc.
Yep.
And I just shamelessly do that.
Yep.
And go, oh, hello, that's really interesting. And then just over time, that's just built. And then people go, oh, speak to Linda.
Yep.
And I love helping people. Yep. And that's stood me in good stead, because, as I said to you earlier, you know, I think since leaving UB, I've not actively gone for another job. It just happens.
Yep.
You know, somebody rang me and said, oh, by the way, you've been recommended for this job, which happened to be Tayto.
Yep.
And the headhunter said, you're the first one that went, oh my God, Tayto. A taste of home.
It's the dream job. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially because I get to see my family when I go to the castle.
Yes.
But yeah, I think using your network is really important, because, and especially in HR, the higher up you get, sometimes you just need to bounce something off with a fellow HR professional. Go, what would you do in this situation? Because it's very, very lonely at times.
Yes. And my experience is that's not something that HR professionals do naturally.
No.
They don't necessarily think, what I need is a really good network, because that's going to be beneficial to me in my career, or to help me develop, or to help me, you know, achieve what I need to achieve even in this role. It's not just about finding other jobs, is it? It's knowing good people that can help with things where you are. And I've heard other people talk about the importance of that. And it tends to be the more successful senior people that are kind of cottoned on to the fact that that's a useful thing. So that makes sense. The other thing that I know you feel passionately about is resilience within the HR profession. And again, it kind of links to what we were talking about earlier about there, you know, being a bit of a pounding of the profession at the minute. How do you think that's going at the minute in terms of, you know, because actually HR professionals, there's a lot thrown at them. And that takes a toll, doesn't it?
It does, because I pride myself on being a true generalist. So, you know, sometimes it's mental whiplash. It could be, you know, somebody asks a question about employment tax, which I'm a bit of a geek about, through to organisational design, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot that we're expected to know. And I think sometimes you don't have to know everything. Again, use your network, use your people that you trust. I think because of that, and because of the nature of people aren't black and white, and actually I personally love playing in the grey. I love that. Oh, that's interesting. We get landed with some very, very extreme emotional circumstances, be that going through wholesale change, redundancies, etc., through to people come to work and they can't sometimes leave their personal life behind. Some of the things I've heard have been quite traumatic that people are going through. And we're not just expected to help the manager navigate that, but the individual. Yeah. And, I know I've taken stuff home and I can think of cases to this day that just bring me out in a cold sweat. So we have that and then have to then help the business navigate through that, because sometimes situations where you have to part ways with people and it's, when's that going to be done? When's that going to be done? It's emotionally trying. And again, especially through COVID, trying to navigate, what did Boris mean? I don't know. I'm just trying to get my head around it as well. It's a pounding. And if it goes wrong, HR, because we haven't got names. We're just called HR, which always makes me laugh. If I think a lot of people go into HR because they like helping people.
Yeah.
I'd argue I was fascinated by people. I like helping find solutions. So both very virtue, you do take a lot on board. And I think sometimes businesses forget that we also are human and we have our own lives that sometimes don't help matters. I know I've been through some personal challenges when it's difficult to help people navigate what they're going through when you're going, my life's a mess.
Yeah, I'm just holding it together myself.
And it's being kind to yourself. And I think there's also that element of, actually, is this worth it? But I do think, and I've only learnt this through being, so I'm an executive coach as well. And going through the supervision you get being a coach, but also some other studies that I did, I was lucky enough to go to Henley Business School, the importance of that, the importance of going to unpack what's been said to you. I mean, I've been called all sorts of things. And I think that's really important. And I don't think it's seen necessarily as something that organisations should invest in for their HR teams.
Yeah.
And again, we talked about, Dr. Jo Burrell, who I think is amazing.
Yeah.
Never met her, but I think she's amazing.
Well, we can make that introduction easily.
Yes, she's absolutely right, because you get supervision for therapists, for coaches, but we're all those things sometimes. And I see a lot of burnout. I think, if I'm being honest, there was a phase when I absolutely burnt out myself.
Yeah.
And actually, that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's not okay to be in that position in the first place, but it's okay to say that.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we do see a lot. I mean, I've seen a lot that makes me laugh to this day, but a lot because ultimately, when in the workplace, you see so many aspects of society. You just don't know what people are going through. But very often HR, we find that out, and it's just, Yeah,
and it's interesting. I think it probably is in the context of the HR profession getting a bashing at the minute, that I often think about that kind of stuff that you've talked about, and the fact that actually HR professionals can't really share that with many people, if anybody at all, because it's often so sensitive, so kind of emotional, however you traumatic, whatever it is. As the person that's responsible for trying to make that better for the business and for that individual, that is a lot to carry, and it is a lot to process when actually, from a pure confidentiality perspective, you can't really tell anyone about it. And I think therefore a lot of that work probably goes under the radar, even with, fellow exec level people, because it's not appropriate to be sharing everybody's personal information left, right and centre.
Yeah.
And that maybe is why some of the value of HR isn't seen in quite the way that those of us that are in that world and dealing with it regularly, see it.
Well, very often a lot of the stuff we do will never be, right, the award goes to HR for this. You can't quantify it. It goes, you can't share it. And you're right, there's times when, people come to you and they expect you need to have all the answers there and then, and you're processing quite a lot of information, or you're sat there and you're having to absorb somebody's, they're not happy about a situation, and you can't say, well, this is really difficult for me.
Yeah.
You can't say that. We're like charcoal. You have to absorb it. And still to this day, some of the secrets I carry, and I take that responsibility and that obligation really seriously. But you're right, the business don't see that.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's the role. My role is to remind the business that, hang on a second, it's not easy for the function.
Yeah.
Because, a process is a process. Numbers are, add two together, you make an absolute. When it comes to people, it's not absolute.
Yeah.
People will do silly things. People will say silly things. People will be going through some awful things. And invariably, there's a HR professional at the end of it just soaking it all up. Again, there's a fair few HR professionals making a mess of all that as well, because I've advised some friends outside of work. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not sure why they're doing that.
Yeah.
And we won't always get it right.
Yes.
I'm not sitting here from a
no,
perfect perch.
Absolutely. So with that in mind, again, one of the things I often ask guests is, advice for the profession. What would you say to that?
First of all, actually, don't beat yourself up too much, because we have a habit of doing that. I think, build a network, seek support. If I just think of my day to day, somebody will can I just talk this through with you? I think it's very rare that I get presented with something I haven't seen before. I'm like, okay, yeah. My mental Rolodex. Try not to take it personally as well. Providing you do right by people, and some of that is finding the business with the right culture for you as well. Yeah. That's really important. And can you look yourself in the mirror at the end of each day, even the difficult decisions? And if you can't, go and do something else. Yeah. And then I think above all, have a sense of humour. I think that's got me through so much. Not always. My rule of thumb is if my sense of humour goes out the door, oh, hang on a minute, this is not good. This is not good. Yeah. But also knowing when to deploy that sense of humour. But I think knowing what you stand for, and then having that, building those credible relationships. If you've got those, that makes life so much easier. Yeah. Yeah. So, because ultimately when you land in a new business, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, just listen, seek to understand, and just soak it all up. But yeah, that's
loads of really good advice.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
no, it's brilliant.
Pearls of wisdom.
That's so good.
I don't want to take them myself though.
And then finally, the other thing we have is a supplier shout out. Ooh. So we don't have a sponsor, although I'm tempted to suggest Tayto because they're so great. But we've probably shouted that out enough for this episode. But we do like to essentially highlight someone that you've worked with or an organisation that you've worked with who you just think are great and give them a bit of limelight on the podcast.
Well, actually, I'm going to slightly different to what I said earlier. So this is an organisation that's always my go-to, and especially helping leaders be their best. I'm biased because I'm a coach, but there's an organisation called MRA, Executive Coaching, so Matt Radley Associates. Yep. And I met Matt 15 years ago now and went through a coaching program. It's his fault I became a coach. Yep. But pretty much every business I've gone to, I've brought him in some capacity with his fantastic coaching associates who have helped people in my organisations, but also me personally. So they are brilliant. MRA, Executive Coaching, they're brilliant.
I've met Matt and I have a feeling, we've done quite a few episodes of the podcast now, I have a feeling that's not the first shout out for him and his team, which is great.
Unsolicited.
Yeah.
So actually, he's paid me 50 quid, but...
I was going to say, something's up. No, I think, it's testament to the impact that he and the team are having, I'm sure. Yeah. So that's really good.
Yeah, I think that's a bit like having a network, kind of having organisations like that you trust and go, actually, do you know what? You're going to come in and you're going to add value. Yeah. And I love that moment when I bring them into an organisation, people go, oh my God, that was brilliant. Yep. That's really unlocked some performance. Yeah. I told you so. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it reflects well on you, of course, doesn't it, as well?
Exactly.
Which is important too. Yeah. Fab. Any closing thoughts? I think your advice to the profession is probably something we should just repeat because it was so good. But any kind of final thoughts on any of what we've talked about?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I've really enjoyed this.
Me too.
I'm conscious it might have been a stream of consciousness on my part, but maybe like therapy. No, just I think for me, genuinely, I'm really passionate about being HR. I'm really proud. And I do love it when people go, "Oh, HR, you work in HR?" I'm like, yeah, but we're not all.
I do.
We're not all the fun police. Far from it. In fact, invite us to a party.
Yeah.
I think go into the profession with an open mind. Find a business that works for you, and ultimately, I know I can look back on my career and just by the people that still are in contact with me, still those moments where I bump into people. Yeah, I like to think I'm making a difference, and you can too. So yeah. I've really enjoyed it.
That's a good rallying cry.
That's it.
Well, and I appreciate you coming on. It's been really good. We've been wanting to do this for a while, as we said. I just love your enthusiasm for what you do, and the product, obviously, as well.
Tayto.
But so yeah, thank you so much. I think it'll be really useful for all our listeners.
That's it. And I will send you some cheese and onion because I can have them in a cheese and onion sandwich, which is iconic. And
absolutely,
yes,
check it out, everyone.
Yeah, but the right Tayto with the right Mr. Tayto. But thank you.
The perfect note to finish on. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HRD Talks podcast. Hopefully you found the discussion helpful. If so, please follow us on your podcast provider to be notified of future episodes and share with friends and colleagues. For more information on the podcast, please visit actons.co.uk/the HRD Talks.